This is my pro-life testimony. Thank you for joining me today on Faith Focus podcast. My name is Daniela Bazant, and I'm going to tell you why I am unapologetically pro-life. So when I was very, very young, someone I love got pregnant, and I tried to be supportive. They felt abortion was their only choice at the time, and I went with them that day. And I regretted it instantly. It has haunted me my entire life. I feel like I've been complicit in a murder. And with that gravitas. So it really is something that has been eating at my conscience. And I am fearing the day I have to face God that I did that. There's something that really haunts me. And as a matter of fact, this person and I, we couldn't look at each other after that. And the friendship sort of dissolved because it was just too awkward. Every time we looked at each other, we just reminded each other of that day. So I realized how heavy abortion is just by being in the same building as it was happening. You know what I mean? You could feel that energy, and it was such a big, horrible trauma that I understood the severity and the permanence and the heaviness of that choice. Because I feel like it is sanitized, and the language society uses around abortion is so sanitized, clump of cells, that sort of thing, that it really waters down to help you live with it, right? And I saw just by being in it indirectly how heavy that actually was. Now, fast forward many, many years later, I'm working at a job that decides they're going to start a high-risk teen employment program, education program. So I become a mentor in this program. And one of the kids gets pregnant. She's 15 years old. And all of her counselors and mentors and whatever, they're telling her she needs to have an abortion because this baby will ruin her life. And this is already a kid who's in trouble, right? She's in this high-risk program for a reason. So she's already on a shady path, okay? So now they're saying if you have this kid at 15 and you're all messed up the way you are, the kid's going to be messed up. The best thing you can do as a mom is to kill the kid. So abortion, 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 abortion. And she doesn't want to have an abortion. So this is bugging her. She doesn't want to do it, and she's pained about it, and everybody's pushing her. So I'm the only voice that says, hey, back off. You guys aren't the one that has to live with this decision. If she doesn't want to have an abortion, people have been having kids out of wedlock forever. Our Savior was born out of wedlock. You know what I mean? Technically. So relax. We'll figure it out. It's going to be hard, but it'll be fine. And she ended up having the kid. And you know what? It was fine. They found a home for unwed mothers. She got a ton of counseling and support. They put her on the system. She finished school. Everything was fine. It was hard, whatever, but it was fine. So I move away, lose touch, whatever. Years later, I get this message on Facebook. We weren't friends. She hunted me down. She says, I can't believe I found you. I've been thinking about you all day. I forget if she said her daughter was graduating high school that day, but it was some big milestone anyway. She said, I keep thinking about you because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have my daughter. Everybody wanted me to abort her, and they were saying that it was going to be the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I just want you to know that she actually saved my life. I was getting myself in a lot of trouble back then. And I grew up so fast after she was born, but in that home for unwed mothers, she got a lot of counseling. She patched up things with her family. She ended up marrying the kid that got her pregnant. They ended up having 2 other children, and they both ended up very successful in life. So she ended up with a beautiful family, and she says, and my daughter and I, we're best friends, and I enjoyed being a mother. I had a great time. It didn't ruin me at all. I loved being a mom. I love my other children. I love my family. That all almost got taken away from me. And knowing where I was emotionally at the time, had I had that abortion, I think it would have messed me up. And that would have put me on an even worse path. And that message hit home so hard. There's no way I cannot be pro-life after getting a message like that. And the other day, somebody said to me, Neil, I understand the pro-life and how you feel about that, whatever. That all makes sense. But what bothers me is when, the pro-life movement is really like men telling women what to do with their bodies. And my answer was, really? Because last time I checked, the majority of the pro-life movement is populated by women. So where are these men that you're talking about? Well, maybe some of the men that are in office that are pushing legislation like this, because they are being pushed by the public pressure of the women of the pro-life movement. So they are just doing the bidding of their constituents, which are women pushing to repeal this legislation. It's not men. That's a trope. And while we're on that subject, understand that for a living, I write political spin. This is what I do. And I know that certain slogans, we're going to call them, okay, but they're really tropes. But let's see them as slogans. They're very carefully crafted to disarm you so that you can't fight back or you feel guilty or embarrassed. So this is carefully crafted narrative. So I want you to imagine, so if you're a man and somebody says to you, you hate women, you're just a man trying to tell a woman what to do with their body, that is hard to rebut, right? That puts you in an awkward situation, which is exactly what they want. Now, if you think about it, over the years, there has been a huge campaign to make the public embrace these slogans, these tropes, not just against or about abortion, but about Christianity in general, about God, about religion. There's all these, it's a control mechanism, right? That's one they say about religion. Religion just an element of control. So we have all sorts of tropes that are being used by the secularists that are trying to de-God everything, which is why they come up with these creative words where we have to learn to spot it. Because the problem is when you're hit with this disarming sort of narrative, you don't respond. Catholics in general, we tend to just be quiet. Or I think instead we need to call it out. Like, for example, when we're talking about, they try to make you feel like you're stupid if you're religious. So if you're religious, you're dumb, you hate science. If you're religious, you hate science. Well, that's not true. As a matter of fact, university system came from Catholicism, right? Came from religious education. Science in general came from the Judeo-Christian heritage. Like, we're the ones that invented science. You know what I mean? So, of course, right? And you can be Catholic and still respect science. Like, for example, when they say the Big Bang, that's the story of Genesis right there. Let there be light. Boom. Here's the Big Bang. It's in our Bible, right? Where we differ is atheists will say, well, there was nothing before the Big Bang. And our attitude is, who caused the Big Bang? That's the only real difference. So what happens is, instead of fighting back and saying there's a lot of Catholic scientists, and this is why, right? So instead, when they say you're dumb because you're religious, we get embarrassed and we look down. So I think it's time, and this is how, the abortion cult movement got so strong, is because they bullied you into, if you say you're pro-life publicly, we're going to ruin your career. We're going to make the public think you hate women. We're going to make sure you don't get elected, so people became quiet. We were bullied into being silenced. And I think it's high time, for the sake of all these babies, that we start getting really honest. So, for example, the women in the pro-life movement, we need to counter the narrative that it's men telling women what to do with their bodies. So we need to be the ones to stand up for our Catholic men and Catholic men in power in legislature to cover them. We need to give them cover when they're making brave moves like that to save the lives of children. So I think we can do more as a Catholic body of the church to be even more vocal and less apologetic. Especially you see what's happening in society right now, the degradation of it, how we're hypersexualizing children. We hypersexualize children, then put them on hormones or birth control. And we know now, science is learning what birth control actually does to a woman's brain, and that it will impact her choice of person that she would sleep with. So if you take, birth control, you will sleep with people that you otherwise wouldn't have done that with. And then you'll get pregnant potentially, let's say, because birth control doesn't always work, right? So then maybe you get pregnant, but that's okay, because then we're going to send you for an abortion. Problem solved. And they don't realize the path of destruction that has been left to your life. Your body is invaded by, DNA from people that now you're going to carry forever, right? They don't tell you that part in sex ed, right? So what they do is they glamorize it, they sanitize it, they make it all easy, there's no consequences, no problem, but they never tell you how that could impact you later on. So I think it's time, for the sake, of truth, that Catholics continue to be and champion truth, and to be unapologetic about it, and to be firm and resilient in the face of the blowback. Because I've learned something else in all my years in PR. The only people that get canceled are the people that allow themselves to get canceled. So if you have a backbone, right, and you can stand in the face of the wind will pass, and you're still standing. And it's time we do that for children. Be blessed, everyone.